I'm Kathryn and welcome to Book Dissect, where I take the best and worst from books to help you be a better writer. This month, I read Paris Blues, which is a book that I found in the magical armoire in the bibliothèque in Ypres, so it was free. And the greatest thing about this book, this is an original novel, not a reprint. Whenever they did the run in 1957, this is one of the original books, and I think that's cool. I've never owned like a first edition, so like, wow. But that means that you watching this is sort of SOL, because when I was looking this book up, you can find it. It's not completely out of print. You just have to be willing to pay like $57 to get it. I'd get it. I had a difficult time figuring out whether or not I like this book, because I started it and it drew me in, and then it was like this roller coaster. The story element of this is top notch. You know how authors like to argue about story versus writing and which one's more important? If you want to see how a good story is at play, but maybe the writing is just a tad bit off, this is the perfect example, because despite the fact not knowing whether I like the story or not, each chapter pulled me in with a hook and I wanted to continue reading, and then there was a little bit of a conclusion, but I still wanted to read more into the next chapter. And then, you know, there was a point where I was like, oh, it's just gonna go downhill from here, because the climax, I was like, oh, this is gonna happen, this is gonna happen, and this is gonna happen. And then like the last couple pages, probably like this much of the book just went up, 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 and I was like, oh my gosh, this is the best book I've ever read. There are not words to describe how enjoyable the experience of reading this book was. I was pleasantly surprised, because I felt like I had read the book before, except it would go in a completely different direction than what I was expecting, and I was like, oh, I was not expecting this, and it just, wow. That's all I have to say is wow. The storytelling of this was amazing. Wow. That being said, I do think that this is also an example of how, like, the writing, in my opinion, wasn't great. It wasn't bad, because I've definitely read worse, but there were some times that it was confusing. One of the biggest problems that I had was the point of view, because it switched between Eddie, Connie, and Lillian. I guess I wasn't paying attention enough, but I'd be reading something, and then it would be evident that it wasn't the point of view that I thought it was. And that's problematic, because if you have point of view switches, if you're doing it well enough, you really shouldn't have to tell the reader that the point of view is being switched, because the character voice will be distinctive enough. At least for me, the voice between the three main characters weren't that distinctive. A second problem with the book, and I don't know, well, I know, I just can't remember what they're called. I think they're consistency errors. But there are some consistency errors in this book, and I mean, they're not big, they drove me nuts because I have the experience. So there's this point where Connie is going to go and explore Paris, and she wants to go to Sacré-Cœur Church. And my head exploded, because it's not a church. It's like saying you want to go to Notre Dame Church. It's not a church. Notre Dame is a cathedral. Sacré-Cœur is a basilica. That's what it is. It's not a church. A church is a building, and then it has a steeple. Like, it's called a church because of the building type. It's called a cathedral because of the building type. It's called a basilica because of the building type. And I know that's a small, insignificant thing, but I did not like that, and I felt like one of the editors should have got that. Number two, the inconsistency that I found was actually in a scene that I enjoyed, because I'll just read it to you. That would be easier. "It's a nice place," said Connie. "It'll do. I like the way you decorated it. It's all right." "What's the view like?" She pulled up the blinds that covered the glass door and stepped out on the balcony. "Very nice." Okay, I know this isn't like titillating dialogue, but there's movement, you get an idea of the apartment. The only thing that was throwing me off were the blinds that covered the door. And I was trying to visualize that in my head, and I thought the way that the sentence was written was just like off, but I couldn't figure out how to fix it because like there's really nothing wrong with the sentence, but there was something wrong with the sentence. And then after I finished the book, it was like, duh, the problem with it is the blinds. If you're watching this video and you're from France, do you have blinds? Because I lived in France for 10 years and I cannot think of any house that I ever went to that had blinds. They have shutters, they have curtains. I've never seen a house in France with blinds, and that threw me for a loop because I think blinds are something that Americans have. See, I was just thinking we have blinds at school, but I'm in Belgium now, and like it's different here. Like they have shutters like we do in America, because in France, like the shutters you see on the house, they're real, they're work. Versus in America, it's like they're glued to the wall. They're there for decoration. They serve absolutely no purpose. So yeah, little tiny things like that in the story, sort of just like, it should be like that. And yeah, I'm insane though. So I'm not sure if the average person would really give a crap about that. The third thing, which I'm not sure if this is an actual problem or not, the sentence structure and wording of everything was just a little bit like, it wasn't wrong, it was just off. And I don't know if that's because this was written like forever ago, because sure, there's some like vocabulary that sort of made me laugh. Near the end of the story, Lillian asked Connie if she had an affair with Eddie, and she was like, do you mean did I sleep with him? And she was like, oh, yes. It was like the cutest scene ever, but like it's so dated because like nobody would ask if you had an affair with somebody, because like an affair sort of implies cheating nowadays, not necessarily having sex with somebody that you're not married to. Like little things like that dated it. Like this is a problem when it comes to writers, specifically in English. Like not to pick on like my fellow Americans or people from Australia or Britain, but you guys don't know how to use compound tenses, because can I tell you, if you have a compound tense, if you don't know, is something that has a helping verb. That compound tense will have compound clauses. Like there should be two sentences together. You can't just say, she had read the book. Like yes, that's grammatically correct. Awesome sentence, except it's not finished. It's like, she had read the book and what? Like, what? It's not a complete thought. And I read that a lot in fiction today, where they use these present perfect or past perfect tenses, and it's just, the extra clause is missing, and it's like, and what? And this, oh my gosh, this hurt me so bad reading this. After Eddie, just for the record, guys, when you're writing something, you don't need to use prepositions of time, because the order that you write in is the order that things happen. So he could have just said, Eddie had left Maria's apartment. He had gone to the nearest restaurant that had a public phone. Ah! Okay, I realize that to the ear, that probably sounds like a perfect sentence, because that really is how we speak. And if this wasn't an exposition, I would probably let it go. But the problem is, the first sentence was after he had left Maria's apartment. So this action is in the past. It is done. It is complete. That means the next action has to be in the simple past. So then he went, he couldn't have gone, he just went to the nearest restaurant that had a phone, because that's how the construction works. Those little moments did sort of like, that's not right, and it pulled me out of the reading, but the reading kept hooking me back in. Like this, I'm surprised at how much I enjoyed and liked this book. And I sort of wanted to not like it, because if I didn't like it, you guys wouldn't need to buy it. But I would say, like, get this book, it's amazing. I really enjoyed it. I don't understand why it still isn't in print, except for like It's old. It has fun language, like those French cats. Like, I love that. And you know, Connie, did you have an affair with Eddie? Oh, I really enjoyed this book. And the ending, you'll notice there are not spoilers in this because that's how amazing this book is. The direction that I thought it was going to go, I can't even speak. I'm just like that impressed. I enjoyed the ending. I thought it was going to go like this one way and it didn't, and it was like, wow. Like, I don't know if there's a second book, but if there was a second book, I would get the second book because that's how much I enjoyed this. It was amazing. That's what I have for you guys today. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up or a thumbs down. The algorithm doesn't care as long as you're interacting with my video. If you'd like to support this channel, then be sure to share this video with your friends, family, and strangers on the internet because that helps me a lot. All my social links have been left in the description below. For your convenience, you can stalk me on Twitter, Facebook, and I keep a blog where I keep the conversation going, so be sure to check all that out. I'll see you guys in the next video. Tootsies, my applesines. I've had the windows open so that the breeze can come in the house and keep it cool. And for whatever reason, the mosquitoes think that that's an invitation to come inside, and it's not. And I have 30 mosquitoes that I've killed so far, and I've just left the bodies on the wall as a deterrent for the other mosquitoes who seem to be ignoring the deterrent and just coming inside.